you all doing? Hope you're getting safe out there. Today is actually something quite special. It's my 100th video. And yes, I've been doing this for nearly 2 years now, and yeah, that's depressing as hell, isn't it? But yeah, I think I've come a long way since my first review. My first one was Siege Spinister. Yeah, really great figure. Sold my copy because someone I knew wanted it. But yeah, it's yet again great figure, and I like to think I've come a long way since then. Though recently I have noticed I've not been doing as many Transformers reviews, mainly because I've not kind of gelled with more recent releases. But one thing I have liked is the repaints of the Kingdom figures. So I thought, well, why not review a few of them? And seeing as they're all pretty out there repaints, I'm going to lump them all together and just rename it Beast Wars Generation 2. After that great time in the 90s where they just repainted and recoloured and re-released all the Transformers toys in very stark and interesting colours, shall we say. So yeah, but this isn't just like a continuation of Beast Wars. I have an idea for an alternate timeline for the main Beast Wars story. Okay, so anyone who's watched Beast Wars knows how Season 1 ends. It's Other Voices Part 1 and 2. The Maximals and the Predacons find a rock, or as they know them back then, just alien, ship / sort of technological site. It's basically a bunch of ruins that turn out to be a spaceship. Optimus Prime gets stuck in there, the rock read his mind, decide that, yeah, the Maximals and the Predacons are messing up their experiment on the planet, and so they decide to just scrub the whole thing clean. And Optimus Primal escapes and heads back to the Maximal ship to try and sort things out. And in the meantime, while that's going on, Tarantulas knows what's going to happen, he's figured it out, and he is kind of blackmailed by Black Arachnia into making sure she survives as well. So the two of them go and they attempt to break into the Axelon, the Maximal ship, steal a stasis pod they've got in there, rig it so it can fly through space and escape. But unfortunately it doesn't quite go to plan. They're trailed by Inferno, the fire ant Predacon, who burns Tarantulas to cinders and is then dispatched himself by Black Arachnia. And following that, Black Arachnia sort of enters into Tarantulas' mind to get the information she needs, downloads like a copy of his brain and mind, his data tracks I think they call it, so she has all the information she needs. So she completes it, but while she's doing that, it turns out that this planet they're on, which has 2 moons, one of the moons is fake, it crumbles away the outside and reveals an alien laser, which begins to heat up the entire surface of the planet just to wipe everything off of it. Now luckily while that's going on, as I say, Black Arachnia finishes the shuttle, well the converted pod, but rather than escaping in it, the Maximals find her and they decide to rig it to basically just be a gigantic bomb, which Optimus Prime was going to fly into the rock weapon, detonate it and save the planet. Now that doesn't quite go to plan for Optimus Primal, he doesn't survive, but they do manage to destroy the rock weapon, and the energy wave that's released from it engulfs the Earth. Basically, yeah, at this point they now realise it's Earth, because it's got one moon, we recognise all these animals, it's probably Earth. But this wave of energy goes across the planet, and it just leads into the events of Season 2, which has transmetals, fusors and all that lot. But here's the thing that I'm going to change. When Optimus Primal is in the Vox ship, he, like he did in the cartoon, in the original episode, pleads for them to not destroy everything, just there's too much indigenous life, just get rid of, they can't do it. So the Vox actually listen to him and say, okay, so what we'll do is we'll just get rid of you lot. So they dump his body off, take his sparks, so they have something they can lock onto to check who's left on the planet, and they leave. Now, because of this, Optimus Primal's lifeless body is found, so the other Maximals call into the Axelon, the Maximal ship. Rhinox, the engineer / medic, rushes to the scene, but to try and preserve Optimus Prime's body, he takes the stasis pod with him. So when Black Arachnia and Tarantulas turn up there, they see them leave with the pod, and their plan is buggered. But luckily, Tarantula says he has a plan B, maybe not quite as likely to succeed, but at least it's something. But unfortunately, Inferno is still following them and he gets roasted again, which means that yet again Black Arachnia has to download the information to get his plan B, which actually turns out to be a shielded area underneath his secret lair, which hopefully has enough shielding in there to survive the surface of the planet being wiped. Obviously it's not as secure or as likely to succeed as just leaving the planet, but it is an option he had just in case. So that's what she does, she hides in there. So yet again, like in the original episode, the second moon is revealed to be a giant weapon, but this time, rather than just wiping everything off the planet, it aims for specific targets. First of all, it destroys the Predacons and their base, just wiping them off completely, just leaving nothing but a gigantic volcanic crater where they were. And the Maximals see this, and they quickly realise, yeah, this is going to happen to them. And while the Vok get ready to fire the weapon at them, Rhinox suddenly hits an emergency switch with a big red X painted on it, which sends a emergency signal out. Now about half a second later, they're all wiped out. The Axelon is destroyed, all of the Maximals on there are destroyed as well. And yet again, just a big smouldering crater. And of course things return to normality for Earth, there's only one moon, and presumably there's no more Transformers on the planet. Except we do know there are some in the Ark. But yeah. But the Vox plan didn't quite work. First of all, Tigatron, who was a member of the Maximals that used to be on his own quite a bit, wasn't at the base. He was near enough to get caught in the explosion though. So while he was in the jungle, the energy from the explosion went over him and it affected him. Didn't turn him into a transmetal like the energy wave in the original story might have done. Instead it mutated him, making him go feral and altering his appearance into something a bit more mutated and barbaric. And of course not only that, but Black Arachnia was in that underground bunker trying to shield herself. And it did kind of work, but not completely. The radiation still seeped in, and what happened was the data tracks of Tarantulas, which were already a semi-sentient being on their own, just dawdling around inside the back of her mind, they were fused onto her normal brain patterns. And this caused her to, in effect, take on aspects of Tarantulas' personality, and her body sort of took on similar aspects to his as well in some ways. It was a mutated combination of the two. More Black Arachnia than Tarantulas, but still with his, how can I put this, sadistic and sort of much more evil and sadistic personality traits seeping into her own. And let's say she mutated into a very more colourful form, shall we say. Yeah. Oh, and you might be thinking, what about that signal that Rhinox sent? Well, that was an emergency beacon because, unbeknownst to most of the crew, one of the Axelon's missions was to transport the practically indestructible Protoform X to be detained somewhere else. And this was an attempt to clone Starscream's indestructible spark, and it ended up creating the Predacon Rampage in the main series in the end of most of the way through season 2, I think. But yeah, the signal gets sent out and it's received by a pair of Maximals who are there on standby in case things go wrong. A pair of Wreckers, T-Rex and the Autobot, now Maximal, Grimlock. And the two of them arrive in their own shuttle to see if they can find what's happened to Protoform X. Because even though all the Transformers are wiped off the surface of the planet, there were still the stasis pods in orbit. They were never destroyed. The Vok never thought to look up there. And yeah, so they're now here on the planet trying to find what's happened to Protoform X. But what actually happened is interesting, or I hope you think is interesting. His stasis pod actually crashed down onto the planet not long after the Vok destroyed the Maximals and the Predacons. He crash landed, and using the technology in Tarantulas' base, the now mutated Black Arachnia tracked it down. It was in a bad way, like it was in the show, and while Protoform X was unable to do anything, she ripped out his spark and decided to put it into a new body. And luckily she was able to find a sparkless body among the wreckage of the Maximal base, mostly kept safe by a stasis pod. And she put the spark of Protoform X into this spare body, and from that created a much more terrifying creature. No longer was it Rampage, as it would have been in the main timeline. It was now a dark and evil version of Optimus Primal, one we shall name Nemesis Primal. And that kind of sets the stage now for this second generation of Beast Wars. You have T-Rex and Grimlock on the planet trying to hunt down Protoform X, now Nemesis Prime, or Nemesis and Black Arachnia, are working together out of necessity to either get their ship or find another way off the planet. And you have Tigatron running around the planet as a mindless, savage brute, just tearing apart anything he can get his claws on. And of course, hopefully in the future, when I get a few more of these Beast Wars repaints, I'll add some more story to it, but that's where things are at the moment. So all that leaves me to do now is to get onto the first figure review, and I guess I'll do that. The first figure I'm going to review is the mutated Black Arachnia from the Bumblebee Buzzworthy box set. This is a repaint of the Kingdom version of Black Arachnia, which more closely resembles her original toy appearance. Mostly. There are still a few liberties taken, but as you can see, here's the release of this figure next to that first version of Black Arachnia. I think this might actually be a repaint of that first version of Black Arachnia, if I look at it, but you can see it's trying to homage those colour schemes and that appearance. I think it does it really, really well. And her original figure was just a repaint of the Tarantulas figure, where rather than using the normal Tarantulas face, the Beast Wars toys back then had a thing where they normally came with two different face sculpts, like a normal one and a mutated one. Her normal appearance used the mutated face, while Tarantulas used the other one. Or it might be the other way around now I think about it. Either way, the only distinguishing feature between the two was which face you normally had showing on them. And this figure is really, really a fantastic repaint of that Kingdom version. I have got the Kingdom version, I really like it. It's one of the best figures from that line, I think. And this just has a lot more dynamic colours and more of a pop. And the face sculpt has obviously been redone to match that original toy, and I think it looks fantastic. It's very featureless compared to the traditional Black Arachnia face, which is supposed to be quite an attractive female one, but I think it works really, 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 really well. And just like the original Black Arachnia from Kingdom, this figure is really highly posable. I've got no qualms with it. Maybe a wrist swivel on where her claws are might be... that might be a nice thing to have. Oh, and she's got no real waist articulation, just due to the way she transforms. It can't really swivel, but yeah, again, it's a nice colour scheme, really catchy, and it just pops in a lovely, very 90s way, especially with that what can only be described as a leopard print bikini top, which just looks ridiculous, but I think it works. Oh, and some of you might have noticed that the figure that I showed off as being like the main release of this figure and mine are slightly different. You see, that's because the normal version of Kingdom Black Arachnia comes with black spider legs, but her on-show model had goldy orangey ones, the ones that come with this figure. So I just swapped them over. And yeah, I think you'll agree, I think it works really well, because you've got that Kingdom one now with all the correct colours. Well, this version, the mutated version, balances the colours out a bit more. Like both her arms and her legs now have purple, black and gold and that sort of weird mucus green colour, but it's more balanced than they were when she had all the golden spider legs sticking off the sides, and I think it balances them out and it completes that Black Arachnia, which, yeah, still an amazing figure. And the two of them together I think actually look really, really nice. They complement each other because their colours are... they don't clash overly, but they are definitely different. One might almost assume, looking at them, this could be the child of Black Arachnia and Tarantulas. But I think they both work really nicely together. And yeah, I'm definitely going to keep both. I might, I don't know, rename... I don't know. Because I actually like this one as being a mutated version of Tarantulas and Black Arachnia. Sorry. I like this being a mutated version of Black Arachnia where Tarantulas' influence has changed her appearance, but there's place on my shelf for both of these. Oh, and yeah, she's a great figure. The only problem I have with her is just a transformation, which is what I had with the original figure. It's a pain to get everything to hook in underneath. When it is transformed, it is a fantastic, creepy and terrifying looking spider. I mean, I've got an aunt who's arachnophobic. She wouldn't walk in the house if she knew this was here. And it's got this wonderful Halloween colour scheme now that definitely shows through in spider mode, which I think actually is fantastic. And when you compare her next to the regular release of Black Arachnia, yet again, the two really work well together. Definitely different from each other, but the similarities between them, obviously the sculpting's all the same in this mode, but the differences in the paint, but the little bits that are the same, really make the two of them just look fantastic. So yeah, if you can get this set, if you're going to have like a perfect version of Black Arachne from the show, you're probably going to want to track down this figure anyway, just to swap those legs over. But even if you don't, even if you haven't got the original Kingdom version, I recommend finding this figure just because it's a great colour repaint of a, well, I consider to be a great figure. Okay, on to the next one. Next one is going to be Nemesis Primal. This is pretty much just a repaint of the Kingdom Voyager class? Yeah, Voyager class Optimus Primal. And it looks fantastic in my opinion. It is a stunning repaint. It's very differently when you've got this teal, silver and this purple compared to the white, blue and reds of Optimus Primal. It definitely puts across a very different aesthetic that I really, really love. And like the big difference actually between the two, apart from the colour scheme, is the head. Nemesis Primal has a faceplate down across his face. The Optimus Primal has his bare lip showing. This goes with the more classic Optimus Prime-esque full faceplate. And I'm surprised they didn't actually release a version of Optimus Primal with this, but on this figure it actually looks fantastic. The eyes seem narrower, much more intense. He seems more, what's the best word to describe it? More menacing. There's a real darkness to the look of the figure. And he comes with all the accessories that the figure came with when it was Optimus Primal. He has the two swords. They look really, really great in his hands. He can carry them really well. And due to like the really good way this figure is articulated, you can really get him to any sort of pose you want when it comes to like fighting and stuff like that. He's well balanced. It's quite useful that he's got a very humanoid beast mode, so a lot of the articulation is shared between the two, so it lets them basically just give you a really articulated figure that is made for war and combat. Because I mean, like, you can flip out all the guns and weapons just like you could with Optimus Primal, and just have him blasting away with twin arm cannons and shoulder mount. Bloody hell. Shoulder, that's better, mounted blasters. And somehow it seems to work even better with him because, yeah, he looks like the kind of guy who would just mow down a bunch of enemies with machine gun fire and laser rocket fire. I did actually wonder if originally, like, where the colour scheme came from, because like we always get Nemesis Prime's repaints, like the Earthrise Siege version got repainted into Nemesis Prime, so did the Power of the Primes version. But that's normally just black with silver and teal. There's not normally as much purple. Now I originally thought it might be in reference to, much like they did with the TF-Con Leo Convoy, repainting that into purple and black. That was a reference to a Lucky Draw purple and black version of Leo Convoy from Beast Wars 2nd. So originally I thought, oh, maybe it's an homage to that. But after a bit of digging around and just looking at different things online, I realised it's actually in reference to, or at least I think it is, a Kodabukiya, I hope I'm saying that right, plastic kit of Optimus Prime, or that they released back in the day. And I think they've imported some of those colours over and combined them with the more classic Nemesis Prime colour scheme to create this just fantastic and dark repaint of this figure, which really gets across that the Nemesis vibe in a very different way to the more classic ones based on Optimus Prime figures. And this figure, of course, has the same beast mode as Optimus Primal, the fantastic gorilla mode. It can be done in two ways. It can be done like this, where it's more stood upright, more humanoid, much more King Kong-esque, I think is the way to describe it. More classic gorilla on film, but it looks amazing. The purple on the fleshy parts, which were grey on the original, really stand out, especially with those blazing red eyes just staring out at you. Brings across real terror and real menace. And of course you can rearrange his legs a little bit to get him onto his more real-life gorilla, like walking on his knuckles mode. Yet again, just fantastic. Those purples, the black of the fur, and the blazing red eyes, they look astounding together. It's probably the best version of this mold, I think. And just like the original one could, you can still store his swords on his back using the two little tabs. So you can leave them on there in gorilla mode and give him some close combat clout, And due to how great his articulation is, you can actually have him reaching back to grab them off the back, which is, I think, just fantastic. Here he is in his beast mode, by the way, next to Black Arachnia and hers. The two complement each other really well, especially with her having the black legs that I've put on her, because they both are predominantly black and purple, so they match quite well, but obviously with slightly different colours. He has the silver and teal that poke through a little bit now, and she has the green and the orangey gold poking through as well, just to differentiate them, but they still look astounding together. Actually, in fact, in either mode, they look really good together. There's a uniformity of their colours that brings them together, but there's enough differences to stop them from being too samey. Another thing about it, they're both repaints, where the resculpted bit has basically just given the face a mouth plate. I noticed that until now. Yeah. Oh, anyway, on to the next figure. I picked up from Hasbro Pulse. This is the Mutant Tigatron figure. It's a repaint of the Kingdom Tigatron figure, the one that somehow won Figure of the Year from the Transformers line, despite the fact nearly no one could get their hands on it last year, but it's amazing what will win that competition. But this is a fantastic repaint of that figure. Unlike the original sort of cartoon version, which is a snow tiger, white tiger, Siberian tiger, that's it. This is based on the original prototype design for Tigatron, which was just a tiger repaint of the Cheetor figure, with like a proper tiger colour scheme for his beast mode, blue robotic parts revealed in robot mode, and to differentiate between the two on the packaging art, they drew him on the packaging art with the mutant head. As I said, a lot of the figures back then had a gimmick where you could change the head from either being a robotic one to a more mutated one, and they decided to, with this figure, give him that mutated head as his default head, and I think it looks incredible. This figure is really, really nice to look at. It's even better to move about. It's got great articulation. The colours pop against each other. That blue plays off really well against the orange, but the white detailing as well just picks out little flashes of difference in the colours. And the articulation, no complaints there. It can pull off a myriad of wonderful poses. And that new face sculpt is great. I thought maybe it was an upscaled version of the one that came with the Shadow Panther version of Cheetor, but no, it's an entirely brand new sculpt. And the accessories it comes with, yet again, fantastic. The tail of the Tiger mode becomes a whip, because what else are you going to do with it? But he also comes with his iconic gut gun, with a fantastically gooey, brainy, gutty bit at the back end of a reasonably serviceable gun. Looks great in his hands. This figure overall in robot mode, just highly recommended. And also, just because it's a carryover from the War for Cybertron trilogy, you can put a blast effect on the end of his gun, and it works pretty well, must admit. Comparing him now to some of the sorry, I'm used to doing this so much with other figures from other lines, but comparing him to the previous two I just looked at, here he is with Nemesis Primal and mutated Black Arachnia. Yeah, these look fantastic together. Him and Nemesis are the same size class, Voyager. Obviously, Black Arachnia is smaller at Deluxe, but they all look great together. See what I mean about this like G2 style, weird off-the-wall colours that just pop against each other and are very loud but brilliant. And speaking of brilliant, or maybe not brilliant, his beast mode is okay. I understand it's had to cut corners in places at the back of the beast legs, having the blue bit of his tabard stuck underneath. But all in all, it's actually no, I'm being too harsh. All in all, it's actually a really nice beast mode. Could be better. Like a solid 6.5 out of 10. It's articulated okay. The face sculpt is great, and yeah, I really can't complain. I'm just being picky. It's I like it actually. Here he is compared to Nemesis Primal in his beast mode. As you can see, the two look great together. Just the beast modes on these figures are always fantastic. And this figure itself, yeah, again, you've got him on display somewhere, put him in some jungle setting, he's going to look really good as a tiger. And up next, let me get into the Maximals. First one up on the list is one I wanted for ages. It's Grimlock. Grimlock has always been one of my favourite original Transformers, And seeing the Beast Wars version, I saw it as a kid, I couldn't pick it up at the time. And this is an updated modern version of it, and I think this is okay, if I'm honest. I was hoping for more, but no, he's okay. He's using the Dinobot mould from Kingdom. And I think the issues I have with it come down to colour selection. Because if you look at this original version of him, he's very much spotted black over white, while the version I've got here takes like black stripes, and the old figure had just like gold shins, and this figure decides to split a lot of the colours up so the legs are half gold and half white in weird places. I'm guessing this is for beast mode, but it just makes the robot mode look bizarre. And not only that, but they decided to make his arms half grey for some reason, when in the original toy they were just white all the way down, and that would have looked better in my opinion. I'm harping on against this figure. I do like it. It's just, you know, there's a figure you really like in your head, and you actually get it and they make it. It's not what you expected. And what really gets me is a lot of these things that are the wrong colour are cast in the correct colour, but they've painted over them in the wrong colour to try and make the beast mode look better. And like, I'd probably never display this thing in beast mode because, spoiler alert, the beast mode's a bit shite. But when it's taken away from the robot mode, which was the main reason I got this figure, because I always loved that robot mode aesthetic and design. But no, I can't be too harsh on this figure actually. It's not this figure's fault, the design decisions that Hasbro made. As far as like the figure itself goes, it's that Kingdom Dinobot model, Dinobot body. It's well articulated, it's got the claw hands, it has the same weapons, so you've got like the rapier, and then the split tail, which I guess could be used as either like a bow staff or a very weird shield. And he has great articulation, it must be said. His robot mode is articulated on par with most action figures nowadays, so I really can't complain against that. And the new head sculpt on him really does look good. I just really wish they'd just done the colours differently on him. That's the only thing I really have against it, actually, to be honest. But when you're looking forward to a figure so much, and then they change something fundamental to it, it just doesn't sit right, at least not to me. Here he is with the other figures so far, Nemesis, Tigatron, Black Arachnia. He's the same class as Nemesis and Tigatron, and he looks good with them. He's not quite as tall as Tigatron, he's a bit taller than Nemesis, a bit wider than Tigatron, not as wide as Nemesis. He's a nice midpoint between the two, and his colours contrast with theirs quite nicely for that maximal Predacon differentiation of colour on your shelf. And here we are into his, I've got to do it, his beast mode. It's not terrible looking if you just want a statue of a slightly dumpy, half-turkey Velociraptor. Ugh. Because the way this thing transformed, it's never going to look great. It's ended up with legs that only bend from the knee downwards, so he's constantly stuck at his side, so he can't really get a running pose. His tail sticks out like a bloody javelin, and he's got these weird flappy paddle hands. I really don't like this mode. There's some parts, like I think the head sculpt of the Velociraptor has been done really well, but just the rest of it really is bad. And the fact that the things I think are wrong with the robot mode all stem from trying to make this mode look better, when really they're just trying to polish a turd at this point. They've been better off just leaving the robot mode in the correct colours. It annoys me. I'm glad I've got this figure, but look, let me compare him to the other beast modes. They all either like integrate their kibble away pretty much perfectly, and it doesn't interrupt the articulation of the beast mode, or they incorporate it in such a way that it's there, but it's yet again not getting in the way. Grimlock here, and by extension, the Dinobot version is mould. Its beast mode suffers greatly to try and hide the robot mode into it, and it's not great. Like I do like it, it's just I wish it was so much better, or even just they designed it with the robot mode being in the forefront, not the beast mode. Okay, let's add my piece on that one. Here's one I think has made nothing but improvements almost completely. T-Rex. T-Rex is a repaint of the Kingdom Beast Wars Megatron figure I had, and I didn't like, because of the painting. Painting which isn't here on this figure, and this figure gets everything near enough perfect. T-Rex, by the way, if you don't know, is back in the Beast Machines era. They wanted to try and push more figures, so they re-released a lot of the dinosaur themed ones from Beast Wars and Beast Wars 2nd and all the Japanese series, and they released a red repaint of the Beast Wars Megatron as T-Rex, the leader of the Beast Machines era Dinobots, and this figure is an homage to that one. This figure is fantastic. It has metallic blues, a nice rich red, and it just, those colours applied to this figure, I think, give it everything I didn't like about it when it was painted as Megatron. And this is a large leader class figure which I got for like 20 quid, so I can not damn complain about it. It's brilliant. There are a few issues, like the rubber of the panels are like hard plastic, the rubber shell. That rubber shell tends to get stuck on itself when you try and transform it, and you have to try and force it through, but as long as you're not too rough with it, I've had no issues so far, and I think as long as I'm gentle enough I won't have any. But yeah, these colours pop really well. They look fantastic on this guy. Very heroic colours on a character we're used to seeing being villainous. And this is actually the only one that hasn't got a resculpt to the head. But I think it was supposed to. There were images online floating around of it with a slightly different head with an open mouth. And if you ever look at the actual head sculpts of this figure and the way they've painted it, he's got silver lipstick on. Now I think what's happened here is when they've done the paint scheme, they did the paint scheme thinking that he's going to have an open mouth and his teeth are going to be silver. But because they've kept the original Megatron's head, it's just ended up giving him silver lipstick, which, nothing against that. It's just, I think it's quite funny. This figure is really well articulated, just like it was when I reviewed it when it was Megatron. And it has a few blast effect ports, mainly in the mouth of the T-Rex head. But this figure, I think, looks so much more dynamic than the Megatron version. Because of its much more simplified colour scheme, and there's wonderful... it's that metallic blue paint. It just harkens me back to the 90s for some reason. It makes me think of Extreme Dinosaurs, Street Sharks, just that era of weirdness and just kids stuff. It's got like a nostalgic twinge in the back of my mind that I really, really love. And comparing them to the others in the line, yeah, again, in a robot mode, just look at the plethora of colours we've got on display here. No two of these are really identical to each other. They just look fantastic. There's almost we've almost got the full rainbow of colours here with these 5 figures in robot mode, and they just look astounding. This is a fantastic shelf. Doesn't matter what your collection's based around, just having these guys on a shelf I think will just add so much to it. And he's just as brilliant, if not more so, in T-Rex mode, because let's be fair, this figure has a fantastic beast mode. This T-Rex is astonishing. The head details, the way the body moves, the articulation they've worked into the head and the tail, it's astounding. It's got so much character as well. The way the mouth opens, the way the face sort of articulates, all the panels moving to slide into the place, to cover up the articulation, so when you move him, it's genius. The only issue I have is the little clip that keeps the back part between his legs in place is very weak on mine, so it tends to pop up a bit when you're posing for too long. When a figure looks this good, I can live with little niggling bits like that. I mean, look here he is with all of them in their beast modes, and just apart from Grimlock, they all look fantastic. It's a wonderful Beast Wars menagerie of just awesome beast modes and fantastic transformers. I hunted all these guys down. I'm probably going to get more. Like, I've got my mind set on stuff like the Transmutate figure, the Skywarp figure from the 2-pack, which I think I'm just going to call Silverbolt. It really should just be called Silverbolt. The Tricranius figure, and then the other ones that got coming out, like the ones for Legacy, Sandstorm, Buzzsaw, Nightstalker, whatever. Those three look fantastic. I want to get those to go with these guys as well, to be a continuation of this new generation of Beast Wars characters in my collection. Because honestly, these figures have been the highlight to my Transformers collecting. In I know they're only 2 months into the year, but like for the last, say, 7 or 8 months or so, they've been the highlight of my Transformers collecting, and I'm really glad I got them. And I can't recommend these guys highly enough to anyone else out there. If you can see them, if you can get your hands on them, get them. They will light up your collection. They are fantastic. Well, that's it, folks. I hope you like this, my 100th video review. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe for more mediocre content on this channel. And hopefully here's to another 100 videos, if not more. So until next time, folk. Oh no, I managed to knacker the ending up. It's getting late. Until next time, folks, I want you all to stay safe, stay sane, and keep on rolling. And I'll see you all next time. Ta-da!